As I've already told you last year that microvita are of both positive and negative character. Those who are of negative character, they move in the range of physicality and touches the arena of psychic world, but cannot cross the threshold of the psychic world. And this is the case with negative microvita, and the positive microvita, they move freely in physical and psychic world, touches the border of spiritual world but cannot cross the threshold of spiritual world. So for elevation or acceleration, or rather accelerated movement in spiritual world, microvita may help one indirectly, but direct help in the spiritual world comes from the great grace of the Lord. In physical world, when negative microvita move, they move in systematic order, creating angles, and where the speed is much accelerated, angles are smaller, less in degrees. In its movement, it touches all the static items of physical world, or in case of living beings, they are static portions of the physical body. And these negative microvita maintain a sort of adjustment with the staticity of this physical world and also of unique physical framework. But where one angle is in the realm of staticity, what will be the next step, that is next angle, certainly it should be in the realm of mutability. It tries to maintain a particular type of adjustment with mutative world, and as a result of the angle created by negative microvita in mutative world or mutative portion of any structure, that mutative entity is to undergo certain metamorphosis. Its arena decreases, its density decreases, and as a result of which it is slowly transmuted into staticity, and the realm of the neighboring staticity increases. Staticity in its own realm increases, both in area and density. Mutative portion also undergoes certain changes and metamorphosis, as a result of which the sentienthood of sentient portions of physical world is also changed. And that's why one should try to be pure, not only in body but in mind also, because mind engaged in degenerating thoughts invites negative microvita. Good company, good books, good literature, good songs, kirtanas, they elevate the mind. Mind becomes sanctified. That's why negative microvita doesn't get much scope to touch the nutritive and sentient portions of his structure. So we see that in case of negative microvita, not only the static portion is strengthened, but the mutative portion becomes weak and the sentient portion also becomes weak. In case of movement of negative microvita, the movement is always of systolic or angular nature and never of circular nature. In case of positive microvita, you know positive microvita can move freely in physical world or in any physical structure, but it can move freely in psychic structure also, but cannot cross the arena of the sentient world, that is, cannot cross the threshold of the sentient world. In its movement, in physical structure or in external physical world, the movement is certainly of angular character, but in psychic world, they are a bit of circular nature. If the mind remains engaged in elevating thoughts, that circular movement is converted into angular movement. That is, the kala and kasta become angular. And the positive microvita, they don't touch the static portion of any structure. They create angles in the sentient portion, and as a result of which the neighboring nutritive portion is also influenced, and as a third result, static portion also loses its staticity to some extent. So we find that positive microvita sanctify the physical body, sanctify the psychic body, and helps in spiritual elevation, not only of human body, but also of any living body. And it helps the thought of Paramapurusha, the sanchara, the pratisanchara portion of Paramapurusha's thought or connection in creating a better world. We should always try to invite positive microvita for our all-around and integrated development, not only of a particular human body or a particular living body, but for an all-round development of all existences, that is, all existential faculties are to be benefited by this positive microvita. Inanimate object may become animate. Carbon atoms sleeping in an inanimate body will get life in it, will get the star of vitality in it, and the vitality is slowly to be transmuted into a gigantic living structure like a human being. We should remember that here we are to invite the positive microvita for our all-around progress and all-around elevation, and we are to denounce the advancement of negative microvita because it is detrimental to the cause of a sweet and beautiful universe.